Hello again. I'm Pat Martins with Faith Lutheran Church in Jefferson City, Missouri for Man on a Mission. Thanks for joining me today. I told you early on in this series that there may be some days I may ramble a little longer than others, and today is one of those days. As we continue on looking at some excerpts from the book The Hole in Our Gospel by Richard Stearns, I want to touch on what is probably my favorite section of this book. It revolves around one of the miracles that Jesus performed during his ministry on this earth. Probably one of the more famous ones to young and old alike. Everyone can relate to it. It's the feeding of the 5,000. I would invite you to open your Bible and read all four of these accounts when you get the chance in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Did you know this miracle of Jesus's during his earthly ministry is the only one that is recorded in all four Gospels? It just shows you the importance of this one. It's interesting how each account has some slightly different details of the events that transpired. Study each account closely and look for all the varying details. It really is fascinating when you do that. On the surface, you may think that this is a remarkable miracle where Jesus shows us his supreme power to take underwhelming resources in the face of an overwhelming need and deliver. Jesus definitely proves this, but it also speaks to much more, including in particular our calling to missions. And that's what Stearns found in his study of this miracle. There's so much to unpack out of here. I'm only going to touch on a small portion. So that is why I invite you to take time on your own to study each gospel account in detail. I want to start with Jesus and how he has a little fun with the disciples. When you get into this, you kind of wonder if Jesus maybe had a wry smile on his face when he asked Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for all these people to eat?" Which must have just made Philip do a double take. "I'm sorry, what did you say, Jesus?" Or in Matthew and Luke, Jesus says, "You give them something to eat." Huh? How could they expect him to do that? Maybe he was just having some fun with them, because in the very next verse in John it says he asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Can you just imagine the disciples running around trying to calculate and figure out what they needed to feed all these people? Jesus had to have just stood back in amusement watching them in sheer panic mode, don't you think? But you know, he probably thinks that same thing about us today when we are in time of crisis or need. Instead of laying it at the feet of Jesus, we're trying to solve things in an earthly realm when it would be a whole lot simpler to present it to Jesus. So we should not be too hard on the disciples here. Finally, Jesus asks, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." In Matthew it says, "We have here only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish." But catch the subtle difference in John's account. Andrew spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish. But how far will they go among so many?" Notice John calls out the size of the collection. Not only is there a very limited amount of food that they have come up with, but even at that, it's little in size or in what is given. And what does Jesus say? Very simply, and don't underestimate this short sentence, "Bring them here to me," he said in Matthew. And what does he do with what he receives? In all 4 accounts, it is important to note, he gives thanks for them. It didn't matter the amount. It didn't matter the size. There is one part of this miracle that I find fascinating, though, and I wish we had more on it. It's the boy. How is it that among so many, only this one boy had food? There were 5,000 men, not total people, but men only. According to Matthew, the number of those who ate was about 5,000 men besides women and children. It could have been 15 to 20,000 people actually there. Here's the question. If this boy had food, wasn't it likely others there had food too that they could have given? 2 things bother me about this. One, did the others not give out of selfishness? Thinking, well, if I give what I have, I can see how many people are here, and I'm not going to have any for myself. I'll just hang on to what's mine so I know that I will have something to eat. Or 2, did they think, there are others here who have more and they can give? We have a young boy, don't know his age, but he puts his complete trust in Jesus. while many others, men and women, do not, for their own selfish reason or because they expect someone else to do it. This is not unlike our own actions and how we live now when you get right down to it, be it individually or as a church body even. When we are asked to give of our loaves, how often do we use the exact same logic to justify our own inaction? Maybe it is in our offering. Maybe it's in various outreach ministries or fundraising opportunities. You know, it's easy to read through the Sunday bulletin and see the various activities and fundraisers going on and just gloss over them and go on because, you know, someone else will surely give up their time and resources and take care of it. Surely some board is working on that. You know, I stand guilty as charged too. For instance, you may think it is great that we have a team to go on a mission trip, but think, that's nice. I'm sure there will be other people to step up and go. You know, too often we expect others will give their loaves, so we don't. And it's a shame because Jesus can do remarkable things with our loaves. And too often he is working with just what the disciples collected, a small collection. But what does he say? Jesus says, bring them here to me, what you have. God will take our loaves, no matter how small, give thanks for them, and use them for his purpose. He blesses them and distributes them in amazing ways to his glory. Just think what he could do if we truly put our trust in him and gave abundantly. I wonder how the boy here saw this amazing miracle unfold before his eyes and seeing what his small loaves meant. We can realize those miracles too if we will give of our loaves. One thing Stearns points out here is crucial. Maybe we can be overwhelmed with the enormity of the needs out there in this world. We can't wrap our arms all around it, but God can. And here's the key. God never asks you to give what you don't have. Did you catch that? Jesus just asks, how many loaves do you have? But here's the catch. He cannot use what we will not give. When we're willing to put our loaves out on the table, we can take part in God's multiplication plan. If we are unwilling, we'll miss out on the opportunity for God to use it in a powerful and amazing way. When you go on a mission trip to a place like Nicaragua, you do get to see how God uses the loaves we are providing. It is truly special. Don't miss opportunities like this. Build up experiences with God, not monetary wealth that will wither and pass away. Experiences with God will last eternally. I want to leave you with one last reference. This actually comes from Mark Batterson in his book, The Circle Maker. Another great read. Actually, all of Batterson's stuff is well worth investing in. I'll probably get into some of his work in the months ahead. So he says this, if you want God to do something new in your life, you can't do the same thing. It will involve more sacrifice. But if you're willing to go there, you'll realize that you didn't really sacrifice anything at all. It will involve more risk. But if you're willing to go there, you'll realize that you didn't really risk anything at all. Make the sacrifice. Take the risk. Maybe a trip to Nicaragua with us in July is just the sacrifice or the risk you need to take to step out for Christ. Until next time, be a man or a woman on a mission.